Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Hump Day edition of the Yard. Hope your week's going well. It's going well for me. It's always good when we win. We get a chance to win a couple more games tonight and tomorrow. We're going to talk about last night's victory over Southern Miss, which is kind of commonplace now for the Bulldogs. Really kind of always has been. And then we'll preview tonight's Texas A&M men's basketball game. Huge road opportunity, a quad one opportunity for your Bulldogs. And then the SEC tournament opener for your ladies tomorrow. So a lot to think about. An important week in many respects. We're going to preview the Bulldog series with the Evansville Aces on Friday's show. And just to kind of let you guys know, we always have an eye on the weather. There were some rumors going around early that we've already pushed Friday's game to Saturday. I can tell you as of now that's not correct. My source, impeccable. We'll probably make that decision tomorrow one way or another. We're going to continue to monitor the weather, but as of now, the game is scheduled Friday at 6 p.m. Be weather aware. Could be some changes. We'll do our best to keep you updated over at Gene's page, of course, and if you're on social media, be watching for that. If you're not on social media, then maybe check out the hellstate.com website before you make that drive to Starkville on Friday. If you are coming in on Friday, if you're going to be for baseball weekend, let me encourage you. If you're thinking of floating, you need to book ahead of time. Ball game weekends get busy. We're busy. Like today is probably the busiest weekday that we've had. Really, really busy day today. And starting to see the schedule get a little crowded for the weekend. So if you're thinking about floating, you need to book ahead of time. You can go download the True Rest app and you can just handle that online. Very easy to do. Or dial 662-268-7601 and my lovely bride will take your information, go and put you on a schedule. But if you don't want to talk to anybody, and she's fun to talk to, you can just download the app and take care of it yourself. So again, very, very grateful so far. Things are off to a great start. Thank all of you for your support. We've had some Bulldog coaches and some student athletes come and float with us, and it's been great. It has been. And you probably have noticed that your good friend and host has been a little more laid back here as of late. It's because I'm floating about 3-4 times a week. Yeah. Sleeping a lot better at night. Get a lot more done. And I need all the rest I can get. I don't know how busy your life is. You know, I'm the kind of person, I don't know that anybody's busier than me. But between writing a book, covering the Bulldogs, doing this show, doing the news show, The Dude of Fact with Ani, and then in addition to that, just trying to live life, it gets kind of busy. And so it's nice to be able to take a little time to myself and just kind of wind down. I'll be honest with you, I don't always float in silence. The first time that you come, we ask you to just kind of go through the program itself. But a lot of times I put on some music. The other day, I put on Operation Mindcrime. It was amazing. 59 minutes and 7 seconds, so it covers just about the entire float. The best float I've had so far, though, I put on Operation Mindcrime 2. Yeah, there's a sequel. Maybe you didn't know. But I really couldn't tell you my favorite songs from the album. I hadn't listened to it a whole lot, but because of the fact I had such a great float. And one of the things I'm going to kind of caution you about, too, a couple things, I guess. When you come float, don't drink caffeine like within an hour or two before you come because you really want your mind at rest. And caffeine, of course, is a stimulant. The other day I made a mistake of drinking a Monster before I got in the float. It was still pretty good, but I probably didn't get as deep into my relaxation as I normally would have. And also, too, ladies, I know you love wearing the tights, as you guys call them, leggings or whatever, athletic wear. Getting in and out of that pod and getting dried off sometimes and then putting your leggings on could be a bit of a challenge. So be prepared for that. Maybe wear some loose-fitting clothing. Not that we don't want you wearing leggings. We love them. We think it's great. We vote for those. We do. I speak for everybody when I say we vote for those. We're absolutely in favor of that. I'm just telling you, you need to be prepared. If you wear leggings to float, after you come out of the float, you're getting dried off and everything, you need to do a good job drying off because you may have a challenge getting those pants on. Just traveling tip for you, for sure. Hey, let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company. I love Bulldog Burger Company. I love the fact that there are so few certainties in life, right? Not a lot of guarantees out there. But one of the things that I know for certain is when I go eat at Bulldog Burger Company, I'm going to get full. I'm going to get great food at a great price, great service, a great atmosphere. That is a certainty. And it's amazing that they have such consistency. It says a lot about their management group. A lot of times these establishments are staffed by college students, so there's sometimes some turnover, right? But the same level of service always seems to apply. I think that says a ton about the people managing this operation. Go in there, put your feet under their table, let them feed you. Let them take care of everything. You just relax and enjoy a nice meal and enjoy your company. Yeah, right? 3 great locations to serve you. University Drive here in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. I've been to all these locations, and I can tell you there is consistency from place to place. The same quality you've come to expect in Starkville, you can get at the other locations. And you never know. Maybe a Bulldog Burger Company coming to your town. Yeah, but until there is, come to our town and enjoy. Have that chocolate shake to go. Have that great restaurant quality hamburger. Always have the spring rolls as your appetizer because we're trying to make the world a more beautiful place. And the spring rolls make you and everybody around you better looking. Bulldog Burger Company, a place where people go to meet, M-E-A-T. All right, let's start with last night's ball game, and then we'll get into some basketball stuff. I expect to beat Southern Miss every year, okay? That's not to be disrespectful of Southern Miss. They are a very, very good team in their league. They have had some success against us at times. But I looked it up last night. I saw the Billy Butler interview that many of you have seen making the rounds today. And he was a little butthurt, and that's okay. That all stems from being a competitor, right? I hate losing more than I enjoy winning. I'm just going to say it for what it is. That's how I feel. I absolutely despise losing. And then all of a sudden when you win, you're kind of reborn again. George Allen talked about that. He goes, when you lose, it's like everything about your life is impacted negatively. And maybe it shouldn't matter that much, but because of the fact that I'm so close to the program, of course, and our business is reliant on the success of Mississippi State, I hate it when we lose. And I thought about this yesterday when we drive down 4-0 in this ball game. The last thing I really wanted to do was have to deal with the disappointment from some of you on social media and the message boards, because that kind of goes hand in hand, right? That's one of the things that I brought up before to some people in our administration. They don't have to deal with that kind of stuff. They can choose to deal with it, but I'm kind of forced to deal with it, right? And so if somebody's upset at the athletic department, they'll go to our message board, they'll tweet at me or whatever, and we got to deal with it, right? But, a lot of people that are involved in this are somewhat isolated from that stuff. A lot of people get off social media during the season. I will say this about the Zach Selman administration. I've learned this, that they really do keep their finger on the pulse. Now, you may not agree with everything they do, but I can tell you, they pay attention to what's read. They pay attention to what's said as it relates to Mississippi State. They do. They do. I hear about it regularly. And I've had people say, I've seen some of our deputy ADs, and they'll say, hey, Steve, really nice article that you wrote the other day about Joe Powell. Really appreciate that, And I've heard some other comments, too, about I've had some calls before, hey, this isn't correct or whatever, we got to get that fixed. But I admire the fact that people aren't just up in an ivory tower somewhere, kind of completely removed from all this stuff, right? Does that make sense to you? But as this ball game started last night, I'm thinking, man, it's going to be a tough night on Twitter. It's going to be a tough night in the Facebook groups. And here is something, and I love you all, I do. And I posted this earlier on Facebook, and I mean it. I love all of you. But some of you hurt my head. I'm just going to lay it out there for you. There are some of you, and if I could get a hold of your significant other, I would. Not just to save you from the embarrassment, but save you from the anxiety of it, right? I would tell your significant other, please take their phone until the game is at least half over. Take it and hide it. And maybe that'll preoccupy them a little bit too, and give them something else to focus on while the game is kind of settling in. Because we have a lot of first inning experts. We do. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you we got off to a good start. We did not, by any stretch of the imagination. But some people need to enact a personal policy of not tweeting or posting on social media until the game is at least half over. Period. Because we become prisoners of the moment. We get all excited and then all of a sudden we get so depressed because it's an emotional investment. And that emotional investment is a very precious thing. We all want the same thing. Well, that's not true. That's not true. It's really not. And sometimes I say that. I say, we all want the same thing. That's for Mississippi State to win. No, there's a small segment of people, and it's so funny how when I say this, somebody will tweet at me or message me or go on the genespage.com message boards and say, Steve, you're wrong. No, I'm not. There are some people out there that are so in love with their own narrative and what they think should happen, they don't care if Mississippi State has to pick up the tab on that. You understand what I'm saying? There are some people that are more in love with their social media credibility than they are Mississippi State sports. That is not a good thing. Now, you live your life as you choose to live it. I'm not going to judge you for that. But I am a Mississippi State person, period. The only things that I love more than Mississippi State is the Lord our God, my wife, my children, and grandchildren. That's it. It's not just something I can just turn off. Well, I just go deer hunting this weekend. I don't hunt. Well, I'll just go to fish camp and I just won't deal with it. No. If the Bulldogs are playing, I'm either covering in person or watching on TV. Now, I don't cover games that I watch on TV, because I believe in being the genuine article. I'm not going to be a keyboard cowboy and the fake expert sitting in my lazy boy at home and pretending that I'm at a game. And then people will ask me, hey, can you ask this question in postgame? And you never even have the heart, the gall to tell people, well, I'm not really at the game. That's not me. I'm going to be there. I was there last night. Most of the beat was there last night. Yes, not to be unexpected. It's down in Pearl. But my point being is that some people's fandom is conditional on the success of the team. Now, let that sink in for a second here. And maybe you're one of those people. And maybe you're going to get angry with me and turn the show off. Maybe you'll unfollow me on Twitter. I'll find a way to live, I promise. But I'm speaking directly to those people, okay, right now. On behalf of the rest of the Mississippi State fan base. The fan base that comes, the fan base that attends, the fan base that donates, and the fan base that feels the same deficits that you do, they just handle it in a better way, right? I'm speaking on behalf of those people. I ran into some people last night down in Pearl that give a ton of money to Mississippi State. A ton. And I've spoken with them privately, and they're like, I'm a little concerned about this, concerned about that, but you know what? They're still at the game. I'm a little more likely to listen to that comment because they're at the game. I understand that everybody can make it. But it's important to understand those that are, there's two kinds, okay? This is something my dad told me years ago. I'm going to pass this euphemism down to some of you. And it's something my dad taught me growing up in Mississippi. He goes, son, there's really two kinds of people in the world, right? There's only two. And he said, there are those that are involved and those that are totally committed. I said, well, yeah, Daddy, I guess that's true. He said, I kind of liken it to breakfast. And I was like, well, where's he going with this? Well, the chicken is involved in breakfast, right? The chicken, it can lay an egg and then go on about its day, and it's made a contribution to breakfast. But the pig is totally committed to breakfast. I'm a pig. I guess somebody can cut that and have my own voice, me calling myself a pig. I'm totally committed. Dedicated my adult life, my professional career to cover Mississippi State. Very fortunate and blessed to be able to do that. But it bothers me a great deal that we can win 6 games in a row. 6 in a row. And we're still unhappy. Reminds me back in 2014, we went to number 1 in the country, and we spent all of our time complaining about the secondary. We're undefeated and number 1 in the country, the first team to ever be number 1 in the FBS playoff poll. And we were so distracted we couldn't enjoy the moment. And I remember making a post back then. I said, well, it's now official. We're undefeated, ranked number 1 in the country, and we still found something to complain about. Guys, sports are supposed to be fun. And if you're not having fun, then maybe you need to withdraw. But don't ruin everybody else's time. There are a lot of people out there that they're like, hey, I want Chris Lemonis fired. These last 2 years are unforgivable. And you know what? I'm okay with you feeling that way. What I'm not okay with is that when we've strung it together and we're starting to play well, we get some guys healthy and all of a sudden offensive, we start picking things up and we see a dramatic improvement on the pitching and defensive side. You've seen this coach and this coaching staff make the adjustments necessary to improve the quality of the product on the field. And we just ignore all that. We won 6 games in a row and it's like, well, it's the same old thing. But it's not the same old thing. And I made a post earlier on my personal Facebook page. Of course, there's always somebody out there that no matter what you do, what you say, it's just not good enough, right? It's just not. And I made the comment. I said, we've won 6 in a row. I'm not sure why that upsets people. Why are State fans upset that State's winning? It's weird to me. It is. There's something wrong there. And it's not me. And it's interesting if I can find the post. I'm talking and looking at the same time, and I'll find it because I'm determined to find it. Because the point that I was trying to make is, if you don't think that this team is playing better, then you're just not paying attention. It's as simple as that. You just don't want to see it. Does that make sense? We just don't want to see it. And again, I'm going to find this post because the numbers are important. Because I shared it on Facebook. I want to share it with you guys here. And eventually I'll stop preaching, okay? I promise. I'll stop preaching. But I'm not going to embarrass the person, okay? Because I'm sure they're a good person that wants the same things that I want. I believe that anyway. I believe that. I believe they do. But I can't find the post. I'm sorry. But nevertheless, ERA last year was like, through 13 games, was like 5.13. So it's over 5. And then you look at this year's ERA through 13 games as a staff. If I can find it. Here we are. Yeah, here we are. The staff is an ERA. The ERA is a staff. I have no idea why it's. These website refreshes are not good things. The SEC did one too. We're going to get that fixed. But the ERA as a staff right now is 3.76. So about a run and a half less per game. And also through 13 games last year, we've made 23 errors. We've made 10 this year. So we've cut a run and a half off the ERA, and we've cut the errors in less than half. But yet, the perception from some is, what's the same old thing as it was the last 2 years? That's just a lazy take. I'm just going to call it for what it is. It's lazy. So I'm doing my best to educate and inform here and to entertain with the facts. And there's always that self-loathing, self-deprecating State fan. It's like, well, the facts are we weren't good the last 2 years. Yeah, no duh. We all experienced it. You just did it from home. That's the difference. But if you can't see that this team is better, is playing better, you just don't want to see it. You don't want to see it. And there's no point in having a discussion about it. So let's look at last night's game. And I'll be quick about this because I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this. I didn't plan to preach that long. But now Roy will pass around the offering plate. We'll have the singers come and we'll sing Just As I Am. And we'll invite you down to the altar and we'll lay hands on you. Demons out! We'll do it. We will absolutely do it. I come from a long line of long-winded ministers. We can get it done. Probably surprise you a little bit. Your boy's a little bit of the prodigal son, though. All right, let's go back and look at last night's game. And, again, Carson Ligon starts. And, listen, the midweek games are trying to figure things out. We figured some things out last night. Carson's just not ready. We've given up 11 home runs as a staff. He's given up 4 of them in 5 innings pitched. That is not a good stat. Listen, love the kid to death. We got to find a way to get him going, but it's probably going to have to be in the bullpen or mopping up. Or, it just wasn't good. I mean, it absolutely wasn't good. State the visiting team last night, and we open up. Marshawn, again, this on-base percentage is just ridiculous. So Larry grinds out, Marshawn walks, and then steals second. If you remember on Monday, I told you stolen base can be a part of this game because they can't throw you out. They don't do a good job holding runners. The catcher is pretty average. And we were perfect last night stealing bases. So there you go, the very first inning. As soon as we get a guy on base, we test him and we take second. DJ strikes out, really bad at bat. And then Hines flies out to center. So nothing really doing outside of the walk. Bottom of first, I thought I was going to fight my way out of this place, man. We get the strikeout, and then it's a single back up the middle by Nick Monasterio, a really good ball player. Came from Mississippi State family, and then he's still second. We had a little trouble. Joe had some trouble early on with runners too. And maybe that's also a byproduct of the fact that, maybe Ligon was just too focused on the plate. But if you can't handle it, right now you can't handle it. You get a ground out to second. Monasterio takes third, and you're thinking, okay, we're going to find a way. We're going to find a way to get out of this. There's 2 outs now. They got a runner at third. And what do? It's a wild pitch. And then the run scores. So then you're like, okay, well, the bases are empty. Okay, let's just settle down. Get us a routine fly ball. We get out of here. But nothing routine about this one. A absolute moonshot by Butler to center field. And off the bat, you knew it was gone. And we're shook at this point. It's 2-0. Paytal walks, and then he's still second. And again, maybe this is a Carson Ligon thing. I'm not trying to just dump on the kid here. But both of Joe's throws were not good. And I don't think even a good throw would have gotten those guys. Then we walk Pratt, and then it's a pass ball. Now 2 runners in scoring position. Seth Smith singles through the left side. 2 runs are in. Guys, it's 4-0. And then Seth Smith tries to steal second, and we throw him out. Bulldog fans, rodeo season is here. That's right, the Dixie National Rodeo. Get ready to roll, man. And I remember being a kid, that was like the biggest highlight for us. My grandmother would get us tickets every year, and me and my brother would wear our cowboy outfits. We'd put our boots on, have our chaps, our vest, and we'd go up there, and just in case one of the cowboys got a little bit scared to get on a horse or a bull, we were willing to do it. Yeah, for sure. Guys, boots aren't just for going out to a country western bar and doing a little boot scooting. Maybe you got a little Texas two-step in your game. Tecovas can make you look better than ever. Absolutely. And here's the deal, too. That's the thing, the versatility of Tecovas is you can wear them somewhere nice, or you can live life where you don't go gently. That's what Tecovas does for you. Yeah, it's a rugged, handsome boot. It's my favorite boot brand, and it should be yours too. Be sure and check them out. Tecovas believes in Western for all people, and you can feel that when you go into their stores. When you walk in, you'll be greeted like family, offered a boot shine and a drink, and maybe even an adult beverage if you prefer, and you can get custom fitted for a new pair of Tecovas boots. You can get custom leather stamping or branding, whatever you need to make it feel somewhat individual. Look up your closest store at tecovas.com. But if you can't make it to a store, Tecovas delivers the most premium quality and most comfortable Western goods right to your door. Visit tecovas.com. That's TECOVAS.com. And you know what, partner? Point your toes west. Today's podcast is brought to you by NerdWallet's Smart Money Podcast. What's the best way to help you and your finances thrive? The answer can be overwhelming with all the financial misinformation out there. Fortunately, you can turn to NerdWallet's objective finance journalists to set things straight and help you make smart decisions with your own money. The nerds have helped me get smarter about things like planning for my tax bill so I don't dread April every single year, managing finances with a partner without causing a breakup, putting away more money for retirement since I'm not going to do this podcast forever. Sorry, folks. And also boosting my credit score since good credit is like a real-life cheat code. Saving for an emergency fund because life is like a good movie. It loves a good plot twist. The nerds also explain the real impact that the latest financial headlines could have on your life. Weekly financial check-ins with smart money help you spend more time doing what matters and less time worrying about what doesn't. Let NerdWallet's trusted experts untangle today's web of financial misinformation. Listen to NerdWallet's Smart Money podcast on your favorite podcast app. Future you will thank you. But the bottom line was, it was a disastrous first inning. It was not a good start for Carson Ligon. And now Mississippi State's down 4-0. And right now, everybody involved with Bulldog baseball expected us to get run out of Trustmark Park. Thankfully, the Bulldogs didn't. That said, we go 1-2-3 at the top of the second. All three of them by way of strikeout. Bottom of second, we bring in Nolan Stevens, who was absolutely outstanding. Another good outing for the young freshman left-hander. I think it's pretty safe to say we should probably see him start in one of those midweek games next week down in Biloxi. If you hadn't made plans to attend, we encourage you to do so. I've made my reservations. I'm going to be down there at the IP. Can't wait. But Stevens comes in, and it's a 1-2-3 inning. Really good job here. Now in the third, State gets some things going. Joe Powell, people forget, Joe Powell, his final year at Cincinnati, was the leading hitter for the Bearcats. He singles to left on a 2-0 count. They walk Dylan Cupp. So here again, you have the bottom third of the order starting a rally. That wasn't happening the first 7-8 games of the season. All of a sudden, you get Kohler and Marchand back. There's a little more length in the lineup. He moves some guys down. The next thing you know, we're starting to contribute there in the bottom third. Larry pops up to second. Not a great night for Amani, but that's okay. And then Marchand doubles inside the bag at third. The run scores, it's 4-1. Now there's two runners in scoring position with a great opportunity here with less than 2 outs for us to climb back into this thing. And Dakota Jordan grounds out to third. The run scores, makes it a 4-2 ball game. And then Marchand scoots over to third on a wild pitch. And Hines strikes out looking. And nobody in the stadium, I think other than the umpire, thought this was a strike. You don't see Hunter Hines get jacked up very often. He did here, as did Chris Lemonis. There was nobody happy about this call. That said, the home plate umpire didn't conduct an opinion poll. The call stood. That's how baseball works. But again, State's had cut this deficit in half, now down 4-2. Stevens back out for the third. Gets a line out and then back-to-back singles. And I love to see young pitchers have a little bit of adversity and then find out what they're made of. And that's what happened here, despite the fact you get back-to-back singles. And that's 3 and 4 right there. He gets Patel looking. You get a non-productive out right there, so they can't even move up, and then a routine ground out to second. So while we had a couple of runners on base, some traffic here, Stevens pitches his way out of it. Top of 4, Bryce Chance comes up and singles to right, and then still second. Again, still on base. We knew it'd be a factor. And then Kohler walks. First and second, feels like we've got him on the ropes right here, and then Hyzak grounds in a double play. And Mike Nemeth and I were both talking, do you bunt right here? I don't know that Connor can do it. Nothing against Connor. It's just not something I'm sure he's been asked to do maybe since travel team ball. But he grounds in a double play. Really nice double play there by the Golden Eagles, and then Powell strikes out looking. So the threat averted there. Evan Sierra comes in. Really nice inning for Evan. He comes in very, very quick inning too. Worked fast, threw strikes, got in and out very, very quickly, got us back in the dugout. You get a strikeout, and then a fly out to left. And even in that fly out to left, it's an 0-2 count. What I love about this too, Sierra comes in hot, right? First pitch strikes to everybody. Top of fifth, we soon as the inning ended in the fourth, we started seeing some rain in the outfield. They make a call there, 46-minute rain delay. I thought that was one of those things, too. This is, in many respects, even though State was beginning to get a little juice offensively, I thought they made a mistake by bringing the pitcher back out. After a 46-minute rain delay, he was already a little wild before the rain delay. You make him sit, and even if you toss, it's just one of those things. When you've got a lengthy rain delay, you probably need to change pitchers. That's probably something that Oz regrets today. He does, however, get Dylan Cupp to strike out looking, gets ahead here, and seems to be okay. And then he hits Larry with the pitch, and then Marchand with the pitch. And then next thing you know, Dakota Jordan rifles one in the left. You could see that rain kicking up off the ground on the way. The run scores. It's 4-3 now. And then Hunter Hines rolls out the first, and the run scores to tie the ball game. And so kind of manufacturing some runs here, but how many times do we see it when we gift somebody base runners, they come around and score? They gift us two, both of them come in to score without the benefit of two hits. You just have the one hit there, and then you have a productive out from Hines to tie the ball game, just doing a job, right? You got a runner at third, roll one over to the right side, the run scores. Really good effort there. And then Chance flies out. So it's a 4-4 ball game, and then we bring in Tyson Harden, who has been really good his last two outings. Last year, he was up and down, more down than up. And all of a sudden, they've changed things mechanically. He's able to bury that sinker. That fastball has some downward motion to it. He gets good sink on the pitches. And all of a sudden, this is a guy that looks like he can be an interesting piece for Mississippi State. And there were some times last year a lot of us wanted to give up on him. But so far, he's been pretty good. Got a couple wins, including the win last night. Gives up a little slap single to left to McIntyre, who's the leading hitter at Southern Miss, and he swipes second. Monastery would have lost soft liner to second. Runner can't advance. Wilkes flies out center. Runner can't advance. And then Butler grounds out to short. And so you give up the little punch and Judy single there, and then really they get nothing from it. Really good job there by Harden, for sure. All right, top of six. State has a really good chance here to take the lead. Kohler, first pitch swinging, doubles to right. You think, all right, there we go. I'd love to kind of get ahead here. And lo and behold, what do? Isaac gets the bunt down. It's like you think about the previous at bat there. We probably should have bunted with runners at first and second to push them in our scoring position. We elect not to do it. This was not a textbook bunt. It was effective, however. So we get the runner to third. And then Powell hits the ball to third, and then Kohler's thrown out at home. Now, the mistake here with Kohler is you can't stop. You just got to go wide open. Now, this will sound like I'm being preachy, and I don't mean to be. But there are a lot of people out there that don't understand base running rules, right? All of this is established long before the pitch is thrown, right? And how many times have you heard it, right? How many times have you heard it, right? When we're at third, we're going to go on ground ball, we're going on contact. If you see a ground ball, we're going. Line drive, we're going to freeze. Fly ball, we're going to tag. You hear it, right? And so this is not a situation where the runner just decides on their own. And I see all the acrimony on social media. We don't understand base running. I don't think you understand baseball. And I mean that with as much love as I can muster in my heart. This is something that we have practiced throughout our lives. One of the reasons why the most difficult throw to make on the infield is to throw home. You got to adjust your feet. Yeah, a good player can make the throw. But if we're going on the ground ball, you'd expect to be, with a good secondary lead, you expect to be halfway down the line before he has a chance to make the throw. More times than not, it's got to be a near perfect throw. That's what the mistake Kohler makes is like, he thinks he's out to lunch, and so rather than just checking up there and trying to score, he pulls up, and you're not gonna win the rundown. You're not. So that's the blunder, not the blunder to go on the ground ball. That's textbook baseball. That's what we're all taught to do. And sometimes we forget that because of the fact that the normal rules don't apply to fandom, right? All we know is we had a chance to take the lead and the go-ahead run is gunned down at the plate. And we're thinking, we probably should see it through. No, I'm going to make that guy make a play. And they say Logan slipped a little bit, kind of getting down the line. Maybe so. But I got no qualms at all with Kohler going on the ground ball here. None whatsoever. Nor should you. Powell safe at first on the fielder's choice. And then goes to second on a wild pitch. And how many times do you see it happen, right? You have that runner at third and he gets cut down and then it's a wild pitch. It happens all the time. And then Cup flies out to right. So we get another opportunity for State. We couldn't cash in. All right, bottom of six. We come out, we walk the leadoff hitter. And sack bunt is down. They're trying to play for 1-2. And a huge punchy right here. We get Seth Smith to strike out looking. They decided to bring a pinch hitter in, and it's just kind of a can of corn out there to left. But a really good job by Bryce Chance to run that ball down in the gap. It didn't have the length I think many people expected off the bat, but But it was a pretty well-placed fly ball, and Bryce had to really get out there and get on his horse and make the play. Great, great effort right there. Because if that ball's down, Southern Miss has a lead. All right, top of 7. Amani strikes out, and then Rashawn flies out to right. I turned to Mike Nemeth when Dakota Jordan walked up to the plate. I said, this kid is going to try to untie his shoes, trying to cork one out of here. Very first pitch, I turned to Mike. I said, did he get it? Oh, he did. Great moment for him. Oppo Taco, just really putting a good swing on there. And again, I wrote about this morning. He kind of learned as the game went along how they were going to pitch him. They were content to throw first pitch breaking balls, try to keep him off balance. They got to him in the first, but he put the ball in play every other at bat. So, and here it is, the big fly to give State the lead. No base running required. And then Hines strikes out looking. Hines has really struggled here in the last 3 ball games. But we'll get him going. I'm a Hunter Hines fan. I think he's going to have a good weekend. All right, bottom of 7. After Tyson Harden's done a really good job here, Tyler Davis comes in, and TD was great. And this year, we've had a much better version of Tyler Davis. Hadn't always been great. He had one good outing. He had a shaky outing. He comes back with another one. A really good one tonight here. Russo grounds out second, McIntyre K's, and Monastery flies out center. Very efficient inning. We go out there and attack hitters, get 2 first pitch strikes to the 3 hitters. Top of 8, they bring in J.B. Middleton for Sibley. And Bryce Chance, nice ball game for him, kind of lost in the conversations. Bryce Chance not only did a good job defensively, really good job at the plate. So we double down the right field line. Kohler strikes out, and in the middle of all this, Chance takes third. Again, the stolen base kind of propping up here. And this would have been a huge insurance run for Mississippi State. But I like the fact that we recognize something in the scouting report about their inability to hold runners and control the running game, and we chose to exploit that. Hyzak strikes out on a full count here. And we get down 0-2 here. He works it for a full count, and then we swing under a breaking ball. It didn't work out. Over a breaking ball, pardon me. We pinch hit Jackson McKenzie, and he strikes out. Pretty good at bat there. We just couldn't finish. But just trying to make something happen. Didn't work out for us, though. Bottom of 8. TD still in the ball game. It's a 1-2-3 inning, so we go to 9. Again, would love the insurance run here. We couldn't get it. Really quick inning, though. 1-2-3 for State. The whole thing happens in, 6, 7, 11 pitches. Yeah, really efficient inning for them. And so here we go. We bring in Brooks Auger, who is emerging as your Bulldog closer. He's got the closer mentality. It's a kid that's been through some things. He understands how precious the gift of college baseball is, having to go through Tommy John. This is a kid that has the mental fortitude to handle these late inning situations. The only outing he's had this year where he gave up a run, weren't runs charged to him, where a guy just beat him. Just the ground ball, just 5 feet either way, the ball game's over. Save situation there just didn't work out for us. But he gets Pratt to fly out to left. Lengthy battle there. Give Pratt a lot of credit. Auger was working hard there trying to finish him. Very lengthy at bat. And how many times do you see it in a 1-run ball game or a tie ball game when the leadoff guy in the ninth gets on? It's like he scores 667,000% of the time. But if you get the first guy in the ninth, it's like everything kind of goes quickly after that. That's typically how it works. The collective psyche of a baseball player and a baseball team on the diamond is interesting to watch. It's all about confidence. When you get the first guy, you're able to relax and play baseball. You give up the first guy, everybody tenses up a little bit. Think, you know what? Can't afford to give up a hit here. Everything changes. The dynamics of the inning change in the ninth when you get the first guy. Seth Smith strikes out looking. At this point, the game's over. It's just a matter of us recording the final out. Stockman grounds out to short. Nice play by Dylan Cupp here. The throw wasn't perfect, and Hines had to dig it out. And what a great job he did. And then, of course, Southern Miss challenges, and you don't blame them, right? I mean, what do you have to lose by challenging? Everybody knew that Hunter Hines made the play, but you challenge the play. They come out, confirm the call. The ball game's over. And Mississippi State wins. An important win for Mississippi State. And again, this Southern Miss team may not be as great as they have been. It's still a good team, and I think in their league they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. I got Louisiana Tech this weekend. That'll be an interesting series. But look at the numbers. Amani last night 0 for 4. Dave Mershon 1 for 3 with a run scored and an RBI. Dakota Jordan 2 for 4, 3 RBI. Big game for him. Hunter Hines 0 for 4, does get the 1 RBI on the ground out to the right side. Bryce Chance 2 for 4, didn't score and didn't drive any runs, but he did his part to be a rally starter. Logan Kohler 1 for 3, also with a walk. Connor Hyzak 0 for 3 with a couple punch outs. Joe Powell 1 for 3 with the run scored. Dylan Cupp 0 for 3 last night. He's been pretty good here as of late, but it really destroyed this ball game outside of Dakota Jordan's heroics is the work of your Bulldog bullpen. Now, I don't know if you've done the numbers here. They had 6 hits on the night, Southern Miss did. 3 of them came in the first inning. Guys, they had 5 base runners in the first inning and then had 4 the rest of the way. Let that sink in for a second. You want to talk about the bullpen doing a job, and it wasn't just like one guy got hot. Everybody you brought out there did a nice job. And again, Stevens has that one inning where he gives up back-to-back singles and works out of it. The final 6 innings of this ballgame, they had 1 hit. Guys, when you stack 8 zeros on the board, you're going to win 9 times out of 10. Unless something crazy happens. Probably closer to 99 out of 100. You stack 8 zeros on the board, it's almost impossible to lose a ball game. And it took a little while for State to get the bats going, but I felt like we came out and had a real sense of urgency after the rain delay. Did some really good things. Again, Carson Ligon, we hope he figures it out. He's just simply not there yet. 1 inning pitch, 3 hits, 4 runs. 3 of them earned, 2 walks, a strikeout, and a wild pitch in 36 pitches of action. It just hasn't been what we hoped. True story. Nolan Stevens, 2 innings pitched, 2 hits, no runs, a couple punch outs. Evan Sierra, perfect inning for him. 2 punchies in the middle of that. Tyson Harden, credited with the win, his second of the year. Allows 1 hit and a walk and is able to navigate through that. And then TD comes in with a great hold here. 2 innings of perfect baseball. Perfect. And then Brooks Auger earns his first save of the year. So we feel really good about the direction of things right now. And again, we'll get into Evansville on Friday, but that's a series I certainly expect to win. And bottom line is, unless they have a pitcher just kind of get hot and kind of eat up some innings, they haven't in the first 3 weekends, I think it's a really good chance for State to sweep. Their pitching is questionable to say the least, but those guys can swing it. They're a launch angle offense type team. They're going to come in here looking to knock the ball around the yards. It's important for us to keep the ball down. So we'll see how things go. But again, more on that on Friday. Real quickly, let's take a look around the league before we get to today's top 10 list. I think this is, again, we've won 6 in a row. And apparently that's a problem for some people. I'm just going to encourage you, hey, here's the deal. We all know what's at stake this year. Everybody does. It's not some situation where we're all just like, well, Steve, what do you think's going to happen? Either we're going to win or we're not. And if we win, then we're going to hang in here. And if we lose, we're going to make a coaching change. I mean, you don't need me to say that. And for some reason, people feel the need to repeat that every day. It's not necessary. Let's enjoy the journey as best we can. I don't like this new SEC website refresh. I'm just going to say it now. I'm adverse to change, but I don't like this at all. It's very, very difficult to navigate. I'm just going to say it for what it is. But South Carolina and Davidson are already playing right now. South Carolina with an early lead in that ball game. And then Troy and Alabama will play this evening. Air Force and Auburn, Central Florida and Florida. That could be an interesting ball game. Central Florida's 8-1. Were you aware of that? Yeah. And then Southern Indiana's at Tennessee. That'll be another cakewalk. Nobody ever talks about Tennessee's non-conference scheduling. Nobody ever mentions that. Stetson and Georgia, that could be an interesting game. Stetson, a really solid mid-major program. Eastern Kentucky's in Lexington. I guess that game actually happened last night. Yeah, it did. It did. 10-0. Yeah, so there you go. But yeah, real quickly here, looking at the standings, just kind of update this. We're going to figure this thing out with the website. But looking at the SEC East, Tennessee is 12-1, Georgia's 11-1, Kentucky 11-1, Vanderbilt 11-3, South Carolina 9-3. Of course, the big series against Clemson over the weekend. It was tough. Florida 8-3, Missouri now 6-6. On the western side of things, Texas A&M is 12-0. We'll head down there the second weekend of SEC play. Your good friend and host will be there. Alabama's 11-1. To be honest with you, I'm not sure how good their non-conference schedule is. LSU's 11-1. I know their non-conference schedule, other than this past weekend, has been relatively weak, but they're a good team. Arkansas, still my pick to win the SEC, is 10-2. Auburn 9-2. State 9-4. And we'd like to congratulate Ole Miss for being the first team in the West to lose 5 games. We may join them soon, but it's interesting. It's interesting how it all shakes loose. But again, nobody knows anything really about any of these teams at this point in the season in the non-conference, because unless you go to one of these tournaments where you play some ranked teams, everybody kind of plays on par. Just kind of how things break. It's just kind of like in men's basketball, right? Everybody goes to the non-conference and say, hey, we went undefeated in non-conference. Maybe this is our year. And you go out there and you get beat by 30 the first weekend of SEC play. You just really don't know what to think so far about these teams. But good win for Mississippi State. We'll take a 6-game winning streak into the weekend. Please make plans to attend. Come join us at Duty Noble Field as we take on the Aces of Evansville for the very, very first time. All right, time for today's Top 10 list. As always, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's C-L-O-S-E with Blair, B-L-A-I-R.com. Blair is a mortgage professional. Blair is an outstanding friend of mine. This is a guy that's part of the mortgage industry, and he's the winning part. There are a lot of people out there that covet your business. Just kind of call it for what it is. It's a very competitive industry. And, there are a lot of things you can do, right? I like to do business with friends when I can. But here's the deal. When it comes to something that's as important as your mortgage, you need to deal with a mortgage professional. It's true. 23 years of experience in the industry, back-to-back years. Top 1% close ratio in the country. Blair recently made the move to Priority One Mortgage. Pardon me. And doing a great job there. The same level of service went with Blair. Yeah, that's right. And so give Blair a text or call today at 601-500-2344. 601-500-2344. You know as well as I do, you've always wanted a game day condo. And you just wondered, could we even afford it? Would it be worth the trouble? Well, yeah, I think it would be worth the trouble provided you can afford it. Give Blair a text or call and just say, hey, Blair, will you look at our stuff, look at our financials and see maybe if we can swing this, if our debt-to-income ratio will allow us the opportunity to have a game day condo, because when we retire, we may just sell the house and move up to Stark Vegas and just retire in Starkville and go to all those great sporting events. It's never too early to start thinking about that. A lot of people have a place here. And you know what? Maybe you buy a place, and maybe if you don't use it that often, you can Airbnb it out. It almost pays for itself. But check in with Blair to see what your options are. Again, visit closewithblair.com or text him or call him directly, 601-500-2344. My friend, your friend, our collective friend in the mortgage industry. All right, so today we're doing, you guys love cover songs. And we've done some 80s stuff. We've done some recent stuff. Guys, I'm going to go back. There were some tremendous covers in the 90s. Tremendous. I would argue many of them better than the original. And you're going to hear some names you know and some songs you're familiar with on our list today. I think this is a great list. Roy was like, well, we may have to do pop. We've kind of hammered rock to death. I was like, Roy, in the hands of a lesser man, that would be a problem. But nobody knows the rock quite like I do. So here we are, my top 10 rock covers from the 1990s. All right, number 10, I love her. I do. I think, based on interviews and things that I've seen from her, of course, everybody puts their best foot forward publicly. I think somebody that I would enjoy hanging out with, maybe having a cup of coffee with, maybe breaking bread with, is Sheryl Crow. Sing back up for Michael Jackson for a while. Next thing you know, she just kind of became a superstar in many respects. Well, she covered one of the best rock songs from the 80s. We've had it on the show a few times. It's Sweet Child of Mine. Cheryl's version, a much different, but the vocal on it is incredible. It really is. It's tuned down. It's a little more adult contemporary, but I think her vocal on this is really, really strong. Huge fan of Sheryl Crow, and I think her version of this, not as good as the original, but certainly worthy of inclusion on our list here today. Number 9, got a little bit of a story with this. When the grunge era hit, it's like we got bombarded on MTV with everybody that was a little bit different, and everybody was doing drop D tuning, and it was. I'm just going to say it for what it is. Okay, it was just as cookie cutter as the late '80s. It's just we just cut a different pattern, right? So instead of us having like the star cookie, we had like the Christmas tree. Yeah, it was the same thing. I mean, it was all corporate rock. It was. You don't want to admit it, but it's true. It was all corporate creation. Everybody's like, hey, this whole 80s metal thing is getting bloated, and it was. And you know how much I love that music, but the late 80s, early 90s, it was so much of it just kind of looked and sounded the same. It's like, oh, well, this bleached blonde-haired guy had an overdose. Well, here's another one. Okay, let's just keep rolling, right? It was crazy. But then we got in the 90s, and it was kind of like, well, this is a little bit different. We'll change the tuning, we'll change the image, and we'll tell kids this is really what they want. And it didn't last as long. I mean, the grunge movement kind of lasted about 15 minutes. It did. And I loved it. I did. And there's some people that will tell you I'm still kind of lost in that era, too. But the Lemonheads, probably their biggest hit of all time, was the cover of Simon and Garfunkel's Mrs. Robinson from The Graduate. And when me and Mrs. Robertson got married, we're at Orlando at Disney World. We're checking in to Dixie Landings, which was new at the time, for our honeymoon. And Mrs. Robertson has to use the facilities there as we've traveled in and driven a long way. And she walks in, and lo and behold, the Lemonheads playing on the overhead PA. Here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. So it's kind of a clever thing. But I think their version is really, really good. And again, it's very early 90s, but certainly worthy of inclusion. Now, the quintessential band of the 1990s, even though I am a bigger Soundgarden fan, I think anybody that argues against this is just being disingenuous. Pearl Jam is a band of the 90s. And Pearl Jam really typified the grunge era. And Pearl Jam still selling out arenas all over the world. There's something to be said for that. But Pearl Jam have done a handful of covers over the years and had a top hit with Last Kiss. A cover, a song, it's about teen tragedy. But their version of it was great. A lot of people have covered it. It's an Eddie Cochran song, but Pearl Jam probably the best rendition of it. And I think in many respects kind of held true to that sound, but with the little Pearl Jam goodness added to it. So Last Kiss, that's your number 8 song. Number 7, kind of changing gears a little bit here. I'm Alive a long time. And I remember when Gary Newman first came out with the song Cars, and it was so great. We loved it. And then our friends in Fear Factory rocked it out. That's going to be your number 7 track today, Fear Factory's cover of Gary Newman's Cars. I love it, man. And if you don't love it, you probably need to learn to. It's great. All right, number 6. I think this guy is probably the coolest guy on the planet. I really do. And one of the main reasons I have dreads, not corn, as some would suggest. But it's Lenny Kravitz's cover of American Woman. And if you remember, that was all part of the whole Austin Powers thing. And those movies were great. Like, the wife doesn't like them. She thinks they're all just kind of sophomoric guy movies, and they probably are. But I like to watch movies to be entertained. I don't need everything to be so serious. I think Austin Powers is a great character. Some of it was a little bit hokey, but as I pointed out to her, that Sheldon Cooper's mom from Big Bang Theory was also part of the Austin Powers series. No, she wasn't. Yes, she was. And so that's important to understand too, right? But Lenny does a great rendition of this song. It was a huge hit for him. I think a lot of people maybe weren't familiar with it, but I thought it was a great fit for the Austin Powers. I guess it was The Spy Who Shagged Me. I think that's the one it was in. But nevertheless, there we go. All right, number 5 on our list. This song meant a lot to me when Audrey, my oldest daughter, graduated and got ready to go to state. I used to listen to this song a lot because I was very concerned about her leaving the nest. Not that I was worried about her making bad decisions, because she's been raised right. She's a very strong and independent young lady. But I know how you guys are. I was once a college guy too. I understand. And so my little girl was heading off to college into that feeding frenzy of the Cotton District, and so I was worried. And so I used to listen to the song Wild World But it was Mr. Big's cover of Cat Stevens' song, and I think the Mr. Big version is better than the original. And you can sue me if you disagree. I think Mr. Big is probably underappreciated. They're out right now doing their reunion / farewell tour, which I think is super. But Eric Martin, great vocal on this. But this song used to bring me to tears, man, just thinking about my little girl going off to college. I'm sure every parent goes through that. But that was kind of the theme song for me. So their version is your number 5 song, Mr. Big's version of Wild World. Now, sticking with the Cat Stevens theme, great songwriter. Kind of lost his mind a little bit too, as a lot of creative geniuses do. But Ugly Kid Joe's version of Cats in the Cradle, it introduced this incredible song, this incredible storytelling song to a brand new generation. And I had been turned on to Ugly Kid Joe by an ex-girlfriend. When I got clean and sober, I met this girl, and it was before I met Dana. The last girl I dated before I met Dana. And she was in the Ugly Kid Joe before I was. And this is even before, America's Least Wanted came out. She had like the EP, and there was some song on there. I can't remember the name of it, but if your dad's an alcoholic and you'll be one too. And she thought that was really funny, as she was in active relapse. But all that understood, Ugly Kid Joe, what a great name for a band. I think Neighbor is amazing. Whitfield Crane, great singer, in many respects. The Ugly Kid Joe experience didn't last very long, but left a really nice cover song for us to go back to. And the video's pretty cool, too. Cats in the Cradle, Ugly Kid Joe's version. All right, number 3. I almost forgot this one. I had to go back and work it back in the list and send Roy. Like, hey, Roy, I messed up. Number 3. Metallica has done a ton of cover songs over the years. A ton. And I would venture to say that the best cover song that they've ever done, it's got to be West End Girls. No, they didn't cover West End Girls, silly. They covered Turn the Page from Bob Seger. Now, the original, very haunting. I'm a Bob Seger guy. Love Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. I do. But Metallica's version of Turn the Page, that video is amazing. And when they first released it, it was like 13 minutes long. It was ridiculous. So there's like a movie. It was great, though. But Metallica's version, Turn the Page, I think is phenomenal. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. I struggle to say it's better than the original because I love the Seger version so much, especially that sax. It's amazing. But I thought Metallica really did a great job on this. So then your number 3 track, Turn the Page from Metallica. Number 2, I don't know if there's ever been a band that was better matched with a cover song than this one. You said, but Steve, why number 1? I'll get to that later. But when Guns N' Roses announced they were covering Live and Let Die from Wings, you're like, oh my gosh. Because how many times, even as great as the Wings version is, you almost feel a little bit unfulfilled because you have this rocking part in the chorus and then the verses, it's a little bit of a letdown. I like it, but the Guns N' Roses version is superior to the Wings version. And Paul McCartney is a musical genius, one of the greatest musicians of my lifetime. It's not a hot take. We all know this. The guy's an absolute genius. I think Guns N' Roses built upon that genius and really gave Live and Let Die the attitude and edge that it needed. So that's your number 2 one. Guns N' Roses version of Live and Let Die. I think it's on Use Your Illusion 2, I think. It's been a long time. Number 1 for me, though, and this album changed so much in music because the band Tesla, I loved them from the beginning. It's the very first time that I saw Little Susie on MTV. I'm like, I got to know who these guys are. The next thing you know, Modern Day Cowboy comes out. So I go buy Mechanical Resonance. I'm just blown away. I was like, where did these guys come from? These guys are great. Well, the second album comes out, and you're thinking, all right, let's see. So I went and cut some yards, got some money, and went and bought that CD, The Great Radio Controversy, and it's an album that changed my life in many respects. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. No sophomore slump for Tesla. And they were making some headway. They were open for Def Leppard and people like that. So they were getting out there, kind of making some things happen. But I think they recorded this in Omaha, Nebraska. I think that's right. Maybe. But they recorded the 5-man acoustical jam. And it was a runaway hit. And the first single off that album, of course, was a cover of the five-man electrical band's Signs. Most of you don't know that song because of Tesla's version is better. The five-man electrical band was great, but Tesla took it to another level. And then all of a sudden, they're playing all the hits and all these tuned-down acoustic versions, having a good time. And then MTV said, you know what? We should probably do that. You want to know where MTV Unplugged was born? It's right there in the five-man acoustical jam. If you don't know that album, it's great traveling music. It is. It absolutely is. Even if you don't know all the tracks. I mean, like they cover some really cool stuff. They do Truckin' from the Grateful Dead. They do Mother's Little Helper from the Stones. And then they play a lot of their hits with different arrangements. It is such a good time. I wish I had been there. And of course, I've seen Tesla. I've met those guys. But that album changed so much. And again, there's a mixture of covers in there. That's the best one. But things changed in music, and certainly with MTV, and then the way we viewed things. And in fact, you go back and look, Eric Clapton did an Unplugged, LL Cool J did an Unplugged, Boyz II Men. There were a lot of people that did these Unplugged albums, or at least these shows. Nirvana, right? Alice in Chains, Guns N' Roses. And one of my favorite moments in that Alice in Chains thing is Metallica is in the crowd, right? And of course, Metallica had reinvented their look. And Jerry Cantrell saw they'd all gotten these crazy haircuts and had this fashion, consultant, things like that. And he goes and writes on his guitar, "Friends don't let friends get friends' haircuts." And it was a little shot at his buddies in Metallica. And if you ever see the Alice in Chains Unplugged, and I would encourage you to watch that, that's what that's about. That was a message to his friends in Metallica who were sitting at the show. It's incredible. But again, the five-man acoustical jam, incredible album. It took Tesla from being a opening act to being a headliner and really changed a lot in music. And I don't know that Tesla gets enough credit. They were not a hair band. I said that then, I'll say it now. Tesla is just simply a rock and roll band. They just happened to come along in the hair band era. But in many respects, they stood apart from the genre. Even though they were respected and recognized by their peers, they just simply had a sound that was a little more truer to the rock and not specific to a generational genre. So there you go. That's my top 10 90s covers. And I hope you enjoyed the list. If you've got ideas for a top 10 list, reach out and let us know. Best way to do that is to hit up my buddy Roy Samanti on Twitter or X, whatever you call it these days, at Dawgmatic67, Dawgmatic67. You don't have to DM him. You can just tweet him directly. If you get them to me, I'll try to get them, but sometimes I don't get all my notifications. Just telling you like it is. And I'm on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. You can find our great list over on Roy's Spotify. So if you're a Spotify person, just subscribe, and then our list will auto-populate, and we'll give you some new travel music 3 days a week. How about that? Or some new workout music, whatever you like. Whatever you need it for. I don't know. Maybe just go walk your dog or whatever. And you put your earbuds in, like I want to hear some new tunes. This is one of the better lists that we have ever done. And we've been doing this now for 4 years. But this, in my estimation, I don't know what it's going to rate when all the impressions are added up and all the clicks and things like that. But this is one of those lists I think in many respects kind of stands alone. Some incredible renditions of some amazing tunes. So thanks as always for your support of the Top 10 list. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. I love Campus Bookmart. You do too. You know you do. And if you don't know them, if you don't love them, it means you don't know them. You go by and see their smiling faces. They will treat you like family because in their minds you are family. Yeah, that's right. Serving a great fan base for many, many years. Neatly positioned on the backside of campus. When you come to town next time, go by there and see them and peruse their fine selections of Mississippi State merchandise. If you can't make it to town, we'd love for you to support a Starkville business by shopping online at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. It's BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than 75 bones, absolutely incomplete. Again, that's campusbookmart.net, promo code BSR. All right, Mississippi State set to travel to Texas A&M. And very interesting, senior night in College Station. It's one of those things, too. It's like you look, you think, wow, surely we did well against these guys. We've had a pretty good history as of late against them. We won last year's matchup, by 7 in our place. But this is very much a must-win game for Mississippi State. I think we all see it for what it is. And the Aggies just 16-13 overall, but 7-9 in the conference, so not too far off from where we are. We're 8-8. And they're a slight favorite at home. Considering State struggles on the road, that stands to reason. But they can be got in College Station. They're 9-5 at home, 5-6 away, and 2-2 on a neutral floor. And that adds up to 16-13. This is a team that needs wins. Now, running it down for you real quick, it's the first meeting this year for the Bulldogs and Aggies. They opened up with a big win over Texas A&M Commerce. You'd expect that. But they get Ohio State. And, credit them for, a Power 5 schedule. Not that Ohio State has been tremendous this year, but that's a quality win early in the year, especially considering they went and did it at the Schottenstein Center in Columbus. Go on the road and win by 7. They get SMU, Oral Roberts, take down Penn State down in Kissimmee, Florida as part of the ESPN Events Invitational. You start thinking, hey, we're in good shape here, right? Well, then they lose by 7 down in that same event to FAU. They get by Iowa State and leave there feeling pretty good about their trip. 2-1 there. They lose to Virginia in Charlottesville by 12 and then bounce back to beat DePaul. They lose to Memphis by 6 in College Station. They lose to Houston, and no shame in that. Very competitive game, only lose by 4 down at the Toyota Center. They get Houston Christian by 27 points. They take down Prairie View A&M, and then they get an SEC play. And right out of the gate, kind of a surprising result there, they lose at home to LSU. And at that point, we thought maybe LSU's better than we thought. Then they lose to Auburn by 11. So it's an 0-2 start, and then somehow, some way, they find a way in overtime to get back Kentucky. Huge win for them, and you think, okay, they're back on track. And they go to Bud Walton and lose by 1. And Arkansas has just not been the team many people expected this year. They get the LSU return game down in Baton Rouge and beat them by 4. So very interesting to see home and home that early in the SEC schedule, but they get it done. They get Missouri by 6, and Missouri can't beat anybody. They lose at home to Ole Miss. That was a good win for Ole Miss at the time, or so we thought. And then Florida, they get them by 1. And so you see these games are largely competitive no matter who the level of competition is, especially against Power 5 opponents. They go to Missouri and get them by 19. And then they beat Tennessee like a drum, 85-69. And this has just kind of been the Aggie experience this year. Just when you start to feel good about them, they go to Vanderbilt and lose. Vanderbilt. You beat Tennessee, you're feeling good about yourself. You go to Nashville and you get beat by a Vanderbilt team that is just miserable. Then you head to Alabama and lose by 25. Hey, that's the cool thing to do these days. They play Arkansas again and lose again, this time at home by 7. You look at Arkansas, they only got a handful of SEC wins, 2 of them over A&M. They head to Tennessee, a lot of back and forth for the schedule. And Rick Barnes and the Vols were ready and had an axe to grind, and they get them by 35. Yeah, Tennessee making it happen there in Thompson Bowling. Then they come back home and host South Carolina, lose there by 2. They win at Georgia by 14, and now they're here. So based on what you've seen from this schedule, you'd almost feel like, hey, they're due for another letdown. But man, prior to that win against Georgia, they had lost 5 in a row. So this is a team that has really been on the schneid. Their starting center is out. So Tolu needs to have a big game. Texas A&M will finish up the regular season slate on Saturday against Ole Miss. But this is a team that certainly needs some wins. I won't be surprised if they don't make a little noise in the SEC tournament. But it's been a much different season. It's been very much, we talk about a Jekyll and Hyde team and season. That's really been the case, for A&M. It really has been. But it is senior night. There'll be a lot of emotion. There'll be a big crowd there, one would expect. And Bulldogs got to go down there and make some things happen. I think we all kind of see it for what it is. Now, looking a little bit closer at this team, the The matchup, I think, in many respects, probably favors us more than some of the odds makers are suggesting. They've had good guard play. What will they be without a true presence in the post? That's interesting. All right, they've only outscored opponents by 3 a game, which kind of lends itself to a near 500 record, obviously. From a shooting standpoint, it's really not been that great. 39%. And then three-point shooting has been a bit of an adventure, too, shooting about 27% there. But free throw shooting right at 70%. There's no free throw defense. But considering that at times we've struggled to shoot free throws, if it gets into a free throw shooting contest, it may favor them a little bit. Rebounding has been good for them, but when they've been healthy, averaging 8.4 boards per game more than their opponents. They haven't been as good sharing the basketball, though. 11 assists per game, but defensively, they've allowed teams to make that extra pass and get the open look. 14.5 assists per game for their opponents. Turnovers, not terrible, but not great. Kind of middle of the pack here. Right at 12 turnovers a game. They're only forcing about 10. 207 steals, and their opponents have forced 150 blocks. This is interesting. They've nearly been doubled up by their opponents. They have 86 blocks. That's 3 a game. Their opponents have had 157 for 5.5 a game. So as a team, again, you start breaking the numbers down, and you can see, well, those numbers kind of lend itself to a situation quite like this, where they're a team late in the year that is trying to find a sense of itself. And then on top of that, you factor in some injuries here. That's pretty significant. Our friend Anderson Garcia, former Bulldog, kind of reinvented himself down there. He was a hustle guy here at Mississippi State. He played in 33 games last year, had the 1 start for A&M, but he is a guy that as well as I do will come out with his hair on fire trying to make some things happen. Guys, he has 275 rebounds on the year. 132 of them on the offensive end. That's hustle. And just to kind of put that in perspective, that's nearly double the second leading offensive rebounder on the team. That's pretty impressive stuff right there. It is. And we'll see how things kind of go here. But, Wade Taylor IV, his junior guard out of Dallas, Texas, by way of Lancaster High School. He is a guy that, in many respects, is the straw that stirs the drink. Averaging 18.2 points a game. Tyrese Radford wears number 23. I think everybody does. Out of Baton Rouge, McKinley High School. Played those guys many times in baseball. Many times. But he is one of those grad student guys that's taken advantage of that COVID year. But, veteran guy. Obviously, a guy that's seen a lot of good play in the Southeastern Conference. But the guard play from an offensive standpoint has been really, really good for Texas A&M. So we're going to have to do a great job out on the perimeter, kind of forcing them to get rid of the basketball. We can't just let them sit out there and pitch and shoot. They're a team that's capable of doing some things out there, especially beating you off the dribble a little bit. But outside of those two, they don't have anybody else averaging double figures in scoring. Certainly not. But so this is a pick'em game if there ever was one. It really is. And you look at it and say, Steve, we've been the better team. We have been, but not by much. And they have some quality wins too. So when they figure some things out, they're a group that can do some pretty important things, especially being at home. Especially at home. And that's something to really watch. But again, Anderson Garcia, as well as I do, he will be extra amped for this game. And so we're going to have to body him up and keep him off the glass as best we can. But this is a guy, on those loose ball scramble situations, he's just not going to be beat. That's how he was here too. That's why he was a fan favorite, for Mississippi State. I think everybody kind of sees it for what it is. But, I'm worried about the game. And in another breath, I'm confident about the game, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like I can talk myself into either one. If we go down there and win this ball game, 10, 11 points, I won't be the least bit surprised. If we lose by 10, 11, I won't be the least bit surprised. But in many respects, we have got to make this thing happen. We absolutely have to make this thing happen. So tip-off's going to be getting underway here not too terribly long from now. By the time you listen to the show, the game may have already started or may even be over. I don't know what your scheduling looks like, but I know this is a ball game that a lot of us are going to be tuning in to watch. I think we're capable of winning both games. I think worst case scenario, we have to have a split this week. You have to have a split. And, our net, I think, is comfortable enough if we can maintain that. But we can't be in a situation where we lose the last 4 regular season games and then all of a sudden get bounced out of the SEC tournament and won. I think that's a recipe that spells NIT. I believe we're an NCAA tournament team. I think we'll play like one tonight. And like all of you, I will tune in to watch. Of course, our Justin Frommer will be there. But rather interesting. 8 p.m. tip tonight. So it'll be a late tip. It's on ESPNU. And, of course, you can listen to Neil Price and Richard Williams, who do such an amazing job, through the regular Bulldog basketball radio affiliates or the Varsity app. We don't recommend that enough. That Varsity app is super cool. So, like, if you don't have a local radio station, you can just download the Varsity app and listen to the Mississippi State broadcast. Many people kind of sync it up to their TV because they'd rather hear our guys than the national guys. And I get it. I understand it for sure. But we got to find a way to win this game. Simple as that. And I think defensively, we're one of the top 15 teams, I think, or so. I think we're, 16th in the country in defensive efficiency. Offensive efficiency hadn't really been our strong suit. But we are a team that will grind it out in a half-court defense and make you do some things you're uncomfortable with. And I'm confident Chris Jans will have a winning game plan. Whether we can execute it remains to be seen. But I think with them having some depth issues in the post, this should be a big game for Tolu Smith. He and Cam Matthews need to stay out of foul trouble. And if they do, I think Mississippi State wins a close ball game. All right, quickly looking at the SEC standings here on the men's side. Tennessee 13-3. So a game up on South Carolina. Again, South Carolina, a team that's still playing for some significant things. They're not going to mail it in when they show up here this weekend. But I wonder, what's the emotional situation going to be if Tennessee is able to maintain that one-game lead and maybe South Carolina drops a game? Who knows? But South Carolina right there, 12-4. Auburn's 12-5. Alabama 12-5. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how things look down the stretch. Kentucky 11-5. Florida 11-6. And Mississippi State now 8-8. Probably looking at a 17, maybe. LSU's 8-8. State would have the virtue of the tiebreaker there. Tennessee A&M 7-9. Ole Miss 7-10. Georgia 6-11. Arkansas 5-11. Vanderbilt 3-13. Missouri 0-17. They're just ready for the season to end. They're 8-22. And again, those kids, man, those guards at Missouri, man, they really, really play hard. They do. They play exceptionally hard. They just don't have enough around them. They just don't. That's the thing you begin to look at here is like, down the stretch, you're looking for somebody to maybe play spoiler for you. I just don't see it happening. I don't know how you guys see it. I don't see. And it's the SEC, right? You never know what's going to happen, but it's just one of those crazy things. Like, weird things happen late in the year. I just don't feel it right now. LSU, we're talking about tonight's action. LSU is at Arkansas. Tennessee is at South Carolina. So South Carolina can kind of control their own fate. That's going to be a 6 p.m. tip Central Time, so you can watch that game. If Tennessee beats South Carolina, again, what shape mentally is South Carolina going to be when they get here? In their minds, they think they're playing for a share of the SEC championship tonight. Because if you win it tonight, you can pull even with Tennessee. You win this weekend, you're guaranteed to get a share of an SEC championship. They're going to be motivated to play tonight at home. It's going to be interesting. Vanderbilt's at Kentucky. And, of course, Mississippi State down at Texas A&M. And looking at last night's results, too, it's always so interesting. It really is. How it all shakes loose, right? I mean, especially this time of year. But looking back at last night, Georgia beats Ole Miss 69-66. Auburn, of course, handles Missouri 101-74. And Florida hammers Alabama 105-87. I don't know, we saw that coming. But interesting, to say the least. So that's where we stand on the men's basketball side. The bottom line is this: Mississippi State needs to win, and then we'll worry about Saturday when it gets here. But if you're looking for something to watch tonight prior to the Mississippi State game, I would turn on that Tennessee-South Carolina game. I think it's going to be awfully fun to watch. And, of course, plus you do a little advanced scouting yourself before we play South Carolina. Of course, Michie Davis has stirs his drink out there for the Gamecocks. But it'll be interesting tonight to see what they can do with Tennessee. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. If you haven't taken the time to just look for yourself, it's just a Google search, right? Doesn't cost you anything. There's no obligation to buy, anything like that. Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Check it out today, and you'll see their Facebook page come up. You can peruse through the pictures and see all the amenities that are available to you when you need to bring a large group to Starkville. Whether it's a big family event, maybe you're coming up here, maybe it's a bachelor party or a bachelorette party, or I don't know what you're going to do. Maybe it's just going to be a staycation. Maybe you and all your college friends want to get together. Just don't get too rowdy, right? It's the old renovated clubhouse at the old golf course out there, just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. You're kind of tucked away out there. You got basically one neighbor, right? So you can't get too carried away, but it's a lot of peace and quiet out there. Those people that live out there, they want you to be, have a good time too. Just don't get too carried away, right? 5 bedrooms, 2 bath, an incredible back porch area. You got that great fire pit out there, so it's a great place for entertaining. You got the wet bar out there, a lot of great communal areas. And so even if you're bringing a work group to town, rather than go out there and get 5 hotel rooms and you can't track everybody down, you have everybody under one roof. How cool is that? But again, Google Stark Vegas Clubhouse. You can book through VRBO. You can book through Airbnb. However, if you book through the Evolve website, I can save you 10% on your stay. Yeah, that could be significant. Use promo code BSR10. Get you 10% off your stay when you stay at Stark Vegas Clubhouse. No better place to stay when you're bringing a large group to Mississippi State or to Starkville or to the Greater Triangle area. Be sure to check them out today. That's the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Okay, SEC Women's Tournament already underway. The 2 games from today already in the books. Kentucky takes care of Georgia 64-50. 64-50. What Kentucky's done down the stretch, kind of interesting. Of course, they beat us in here. And then Florida takes care of Missouri. No big surprise there. So the first 2 teams eliminated are your 13 and 14 seeds. So it appears like the seedings were perfect, right? It's all based on your performance. It's not like it's voted, But the 2 last place teams are done. So looking ahead to tomorrow, Mississippi State, 11 a.m. against Texas A&M. And it's so weird how the schedule works out. The men and women, it seems like as of late, we've played the same teams. But A&M, Mississippi State, a 9-8 matchup, 11 a.m. Following that, Kentucky and Tennessee. Arkansas then is with Auburn, and then Florida at Vanderbilt. So that'll be an interesting day tomorrow. Probably going to see some really fun basketball games. We need Mississippi State to win a game. I think we feel good about where we are. But I believe winning this one would remove all doubt. You wouldn't be in the play-in game. I think you'd probably be tucked in somewhere and have a really good chance to get a decent seed. We're an SEC team, and you never know who we're going to be paired up against. But, this is a battle-tested team. Jacqueline Jordan is now healthy. A lot of discussion here as of late that, she had lost some weight and things like that because she was sick. And as Sam Purcell mentioned in the press conference on Sunday, you're finally starting to kind of get people healthy. So we have to win this game. Again, you hate to be in this situation, but this is a situation we're in. I think this removes all doubt about Mississippi State's NCAA tournament resume. You win this one, no matter what happens against South Carolina, I believe the Bulldogs are in. So we've talked a little bit about Texas A&M women's basketball. But this is a team, obviously, that has done some interesting stuff. But a matchup that I think favors us. We went out there and played them at their place earlier this year. And I won't say I was surprised that we won. But maybe I'm surprised that we went down there and just kind of take care of business the way we did. And those are things you look at. The Aggies, 18-11 overall, 6-10 in the Southeastern Conference. They're 12-5 at home. 5-6 away, 1-0 on a neutral court. Of course, this will be played in Greenville, South Carolina. They entered the game having lost 3 in a row. Let's take a look and see kind of what they've done since we defeated them 74-63 down at the Reed Arena in Bryan College Station. They bounced back and beat Ole Miss, and that was a big surprise. I mean, they were a team that was really struggling. They'd lost 2 in a row, and they go out and just crush Ole Miss. And you see what Ole Miss has been down the stretch. It's a really good win for the Aggies. They go and to Rupp, and they beat Kentucky. And, that's a weird place to play for some reason. And just when it seems like they've righted the ship, they lose to Vanderbilt. And maybe they lost to Vanderbilt because they were looking ahead to LSU coming in, and LSU just destroys them. They get Arkansas, take care of them by 6, lose at Auburn, and give Johnny Harris and them credit. I think we all knew she went into the season coaching for a job, done a nice job this year. They go to Tennessee, lose by 9. Lose at home to Alabama by 7, and then here we are. So they've lost 3 in a row, and for the most part, those games have been largely competitive other than that road trip to Auburn. But we've got to come out and play well. I think everybody knows exactly what is at stake here. I think the Bulldogs, of course, winning against Missouri, even though Missouri is a terrible team, it kind of gets you off the schneid a little bit. And then you start thinking, okay, let's go on the road. It's kind of us against the world. I saw that we got several fans kind of headed up there, a couple of groups from Starkville making the trip up there to make some things happen and support the Bulldogs. It's always so great when our fans make the sacrifice to go up there and support our student athletes. It's very, very important. But I think the scenario here is pretty simple on both sides of this men's basketball thing and the women's side. You beat Texas A&M in your respective games. I think you're in the tournament. I think the Mississippi State side, of course, some crazy things could happen. I mean, there's going to be some bid stealers in the conference tournaments, but until we know who our conference tournament opponent's going to be, it's difficult to say. And State's been really, really good on neutral courts this year instead of true road environments. And so, yeah, that's the thing about postseason basketball. Unless you're in the NIT, it's historically played on neutral courts, and that's been a good thing for Mississippi State. But the women will get their chance at a neutral court again tomorrow morning. So be sure and tune in for that. When we come back on Friday, of course, we'll have plenty of basketball to recap and plenty of baseball to preview. I want to thank everybody else that came out and braved the elements last night at Trustmark Park. It's like, I think I've got the exact number here. Give me just a second here and I'll tell you. Official attendance last night, if I can find it, 3,382. And driving down there was rough. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was rough. There was a lot of rain. There was some very severe storms down south yesterday. But for those of you that came out, that's great. We want to have, when we go back and play Ole Miss there soon, we need a better crowd. Of course, the Ole Miss folks will do their part. Because anytime State and Ole Miss get together, people are going to turn out. It's a battle for bragging rights. But big win for State last night. Probably the best win so far. Again, I think this Southern Miss team will do really well within their league. They've got some bats. I know some people are kind of critical about the offense. I think they're going to be okay in their league. And again, I think maybe some people are underappreciating the quality of Mississippi State's bullpen. True. Including some Mississippi State folks. So we'll talk more about baseball on Friday. Real quickly here, kind of looking around, what the league looks like. I think what we've got here, I think there is some really good pitching in the league. And I think offensively we're going to see some teams kind of find some things. But some of these gaudy scores out there, even some that involve Mississippi State, I don't think that's a true indicator of where we are as a league. I think it is going to be a Friday night guy league. I think you're going to have a lot of Friday night games that are going to be very low scoring. There's been a couple of years since we really had that in the league. It's been such a premium on offense. But I think it's going to be, there's a lot of parity in the league this year. I don't know if that was really the case at times last year. But I think, the battle for the middle of the pack is going to be pretty intense this year. I think there's going to be a lot of back and forth type stuff, and again, a lot of parity in the league. I think State, again, a very challenging open. All of a sudden you get the defending national champions opening weekend at home, and then you got to pack a bag and go to A&M. A team last year that didn't pitch it well either. A lot of people look at our numbers. Their pitching woes are pretty significant too. They appear to be better too. So it'll be an interesting trip down there as we head down to Bluebell Park. That is not nearly as good as some people think it is. If you haven't traveled, you don't appreciate that. But I enjoy going down there. Got some family down there. Enjoy having the opportunity to get down there and enjoy some of our Southwest Bulldogs that always turn out and support Mississippi State. So we'll be down there again, home or away, midweek, weekend conference. It doesn't make any difference. We're there. And we'll bring our equipment with us if necessary, and we'll record. Like next week when I go to Biloxi, we'll record the Wednesday show Wednesday morning from Biloxi. If we don't do it Tuesday night, I may be bored after the ball game looking for something to do. So you'll get your Wednesday show next week earlier than normal. So if you hadn't done so, go to whenthebottomfalls.com, and you can get my latest book, When the Bottom Falls, which is a memoir basically about my life and my path to recovery and how I've been able to stay clean and sober for 32 years plus. But it's not just that. It's really, there's some Mississippi history in there, some family history. It's really one of those situations, too, kind of an underdog story in many respects. But some people say it's a love story. I think it's all that wrapped into one. But while you're there, you can also peruse my sports titles. It's Flim Flam, Stark Villains, Alpha Dogs, and Dog Pile. And every Bulldog needs a copy of Dog Pile. If you're looking for Stark Villains gear, you can find that at starkvillains.com. And in the next few months, we'll give you the opportunity to pre-order the Dude. And a lot of discussion now about that limited edition. And if this goes through, it's going to be really special. It's not just going to be like a different looking cover. There's going to be a different cover in many respects, but it's going to be something that's really unlike anything else. Because of the historic nature of this book, we wanted to do something very special for some Bulldog fans that are saying, hey, you know what? I want this keepsake, and I want it to be something that is lasting in our family because it is a very historic book, and it's been my honor to write this. And we'll get back on that, tomorrow and Friday, and rough out another chapter. And I'm excited about the next chapter because it's going to involve the 1915 game between State and Ole Miss. And that's again at Mississippi State 165-0. Told you guys on Wednesday it's a pretty special one. But anyway, until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.